New York City faces a budget crisis of a historic magnitude. We inherited a deficit larger than any since the Great Recession.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. So what we have here is a failing socialist mayor who is destroying New York City. We're talking about a city that was built on capitalism. And now we have a socialist mayor who ran on a socialist agenda. And now he's failing to essentially give the people what he lied to them about. He's now trying to wage war on the rich. And now we have these people that actually create jobs in New York. They're now fleeing the state. They're fleeing the city and fleeing the state to go to places like Florida and Texas. And to make matters worse for New York, we have Tom Homan, who just recently announced that ICE will doing a search into New York. And now we have the governor, Kathy Hochul, having a complete meltdown. And now let us start with this reporting of Zohran Mamdani picking a fight with one of the richest persons in New York that is not going down without a fight. Play clip.
The mayor of New York getting pushback from billionaire Ken Griffin and his company called Citadel. Griffin threatening to not go forward with his planned project in Midtown Manhattan.
Now, this all started when Mayor Mamdani made a social media video pushing for his and the governor's pied-à-terre tax, and doing it right in front of Griffin's apartment on Central Park South.
Yeah, Bill, outside Griffin's apartment here on Central Park South, this is where Mamdani made his video last week. He campaigned, of course, as a Democratic socialist, and he insists tonight he's doing exactly what he was elected to do. So a clash with the city's billionaires was all but inevitable.
What we have here is a failing socialist mayor who's waging war on someone that is critical for the economy of New York City. We're talking about Ken Griffin, who basically his company Citadel pays over $2.3 billion in taxes, in state and local taxes, right? And then he employs over 2,500 people, and he has a planned development that will employ over 20,000 people. And Zohran Mamdani thought that it was a good idea to wage war against this individual, someone that is critical for the infrastructure of New York, and he's not the only one. But let's look at this response from Ken Griffin that completely humiliated Zohran Mamdani. Play clip.
So where does that leave us at 350 Park?
That leaves us with the fact that we went to Miami and revised our building plan to make it a bigger office building.
You're bailing?
So what do we do at 350 is still a point of discussion internally. But what is no longer a point of discussion is that Miami is now, when we moved from Chicago, there was a debate between New York and Miami. And now what the mayor of New York has made clear to my partners, and principally my New York partners, is that we need to double down on our bet in Miami, because we want to be in a state that embraces business.
That is Citadel CEO Ken Griffin, and what he's saying here is that 350 Park development that was planned for New York City, he's planning to move that to Miami. All because Zohran Mamdani wanted to target him and similar people within the state because they're planning to raise taxes to pay for these ridiculous social programs that no one asked for. All because Zohran Mamdani wanted to look cool. He wanted to make a name for himself in the Democrat Party. So he ran as a Democrat socialist. And now he's seeing that these things are impractical, because if the government is going to own a whole bunch of things, they're going to do a whole bunch of handouts, that money needs to come from somewhere. And he's struggling to essentially find that money. So now he's targeting these people who actually creates jobs in New York City, and they're fleeing. They're fleeing the state completely. And here we have Zohran Mamdani. He was asked about these remarks by Citadel CEO, and this was his response. Play clip.
Ken Griffin yesterday was speaking about calling your video again. He called it creepy and weird. And he said that, again, that you targeting him has just been very unfair. And he said that he's going to be doubling down his investments in Florida rather than New York City. And what sort of concerns are you having when it comes to potential job losses?
So I'll first just start by saying that I want all New Yorkers to succeed. That includes business owners and entrepreneurs who create good-paying jobs, who make this city the economic engine not just of our state, but frankly of our country. And that also includes Ken Griffin, who is a major employer in our city. That does not negate the fact, however, that our tax system is fundamentally broken.
So that is Zohran Mamdani trying to force his socialist policies onto the people of New York, and we just know it's not going to work, and he's going to try it again and again. But this thing been failing since the beginning of time, ever since they've been trying socialism all over the world. It just doesn't work. Communism, socialism, it just doesn't work at all. And here we have Zohran Mamdani, after a whole bunch of billionaires decided to leave the city, leave New York City, and move their operations elsewhere. He's declaring that New York has a budget crisis. Play clip. You just cannot make this up.
New York City faces a budget crisis of a historic magnitude. We inherited a deficit larger than any since the Great Recession. Years of mismanagement and chronic underbudgeting, alongside a structural imbalance between what New York City sends to the state and what we receive in return, have taken a toll. We cannot close this deficit with savings alone. We need new revenue, and we need a structural reset in our relationship with the state. That is the only way to meet our legal obligation to pass a balanced budget, and to do so without imposing a financial burden onto the backs of working people.
Here's the thing. If Zohran Mamdani really wants to create a balanced budget, wants to equalize the budget, he can do this in one or two ways. He can simply cut spending, which is the preferred method, because the amount of money that they spend on these welfare programs, giving it to illegal aliens, the amount of money that they waste towards fraud, if they're able to cut back and scale back on a lot of those spendings, then they'll be able to equalize the budget. Or you can simply raise taxes, which is not preferred. And if you go to New York or do some simple research, you see how much they spend on taxes in New York. It's ridiculous how much people are taxed. And now Zohran Mamdani wants to tax people more. And if you know anything about basic economics, if you raise taxes, what that's going to do is going to limit the amount of jobs. It's going to limit the amount of money in circulation. So the best thing that Zohran Mamdani needs to do is to work with the private sector to create more jobs. And what is funny, we have someone on CNN, I believe his name is Bakari Sellers. He's pretty much going to claim that people aren't fleeing New York because of the taxes or anything like that. You just cannot make this up. Look at this.
And like, no one is leaving New York because of tax the rich.
That's not true.
That's not true. Actually, the statistics don't bear that out. But also, let's just say this.
What you're seeing right here is CNN coming to the defense of Zohran Mamdani and his socialist policies, which is insane, because everyone that you ask, why are they leaving New York City or New York, is the cost of living or how much they're taxing people, especially the billionaires, especially rich folks, especially businesses. When you ask them, it's the taxes. Zohran Mamdani, he's trying to tax them from here to oblivion. And now let us move on to our next story. We're staying in New York, though. We're staying in New York because what we have the governor of New York, Kathy Hochul. She's begging the Trump administration not to send ICE. And we have Tom Homan pretty much saying you can beg all you want. At the end of the day, there are a whole bunch of criminals in New York. We're talking about illegal aliens, and we're going to send ICE in there. We're going to surge ICE into New York, specifically New York City, and we're going to get these people deported.
I want you to listen closely to what Kathy Hochul said in response to your promise to do more. Watch.
All I'll say to Mr. Homan is that Donald Trump himself said he would not send a surge of ICE agents to the state of New York unless I ask. I'm not asking.
Tom, she says she's not asking, so essentially butt out.
Well, Governor Hochul, I'm not asking either. I said it, we're going to do it.
That is Tom Homan making it clear to Kathy Hochul and the Democrats in New York and all over the country as well, in these blue cities, these sanctuary states, that this operation isn't over, that this mass deportation isn't over. Sure, we might have taken a step back, but at the end of the day, it's not over. And here we have Mark Wayne Mullen, the new DHS secretary, on this very same matter. Play clip.
Every single day. We're not going into New York like another Minneapolis, but what we're going to do is we're going to go in there and we're going to go after the felons, the known felons. We're going to be serving judicial warrants. We're going to be using administrative warrants in some cases, but there's a lot of known criminals that are harboring themselves in New York. So President Trump has made it very clear we're going to restore law and order in everybody's city and everybody's states and everybody's community that we can. So we're going in there to get the worst of the worst out of New York, regardless what the governor says or not.
So I'm happy to see that the administration is back with the messaging in regards to deportation, because we know a lot of people that were saying the Trump administration, they have taken a step back from mass deportation, which was a major promise on the campaign trail. And here we have Tom Homan making it clear that mass deportations aren't over.
Should the American public expect similar operations to what we saw in Minneapolis and Chicago, large-scale, aggressive immigration crackdowns?
What I'm telling you is they're going to see mass operations, especially in sanctuary cities.
And that brings us to the end of today's video. Please let me know what you think in the comment section below. Do you think New York City will survive this mass exodus of businesses and billionaires leaving the city? And do you think New York City and New York State is ready for this ICE surge? Also, please consider liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing, and I'll see you in the next video.